conferencing, and I'm curious as to, what the catch is here. But so far, I've heard good things about it, and our
What's the improvement with it? Where you cut out a little bit. What's the improvement?
It's not so much an improvement as a separate service for that is very compatible.
live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening, a nice sunny Wednesday evening. First Wednesday of May, good to be with you wherever you may be, however you may be listening. I'm yours truly, Steve Pulaski. Got Joe Viso in the white tee, Dominic Guanzon in the trademark blue polo, coming at you with a full show today. 3 heavy-hitting topics, 2 topics, 3 things that I'm passionate about. I would say maybe 2 things that Dom is passionate about. I would say, well, maybe one. Actually, maybe one only at this point. And then maybe 2 things that Joe is passionate about. What are those 2 things of each of those men? You'll have to decide. But at any rate, we have got a great show, though. Like I said, this is a big show because this was one of those situations where the news really dictated what we were going to cover, and I talked to a handful of coworkers who didn't know it was even going on, which astonishes me, but it's just because I'm in such the trenches of all this stuff that it really kind of consumes my life. But obviously, we got to talk about the WGA strike, which is currently ongoing, effective as of Monday night, Tuesday morning. The Writers Guild Association is on strike, so we will be talking about that coming up here shortly. I know Dom's gonna make Joe work a little bit over here, showing different graphics and such, and some different pools of information. But we all got opinions on it. We're all gonna share about it. That's going to precede our review of Evil Dead Rise, which will end the show. Normally it's movie and then news topic. Today it's going to be news topic because this one is so heavy, so dense, and so important, I think. We're going to lead with WGA after our intro here. But first things first, good to see you guys on screen as always. Dominic, I'll start with you. How are you doing? How is the first week of May treating you?
Can't believe we're here already. That's pretty freaking crazy. Life is great when you're not in school, but it's which is really funny because a lot of my friends, including Chelsea, are in grad school. Joe, I can't do it. I probably will have to do it, masters, but
nope,
at some point. But I don't like it. Not to crap all over academia or the value of a genuine education, but. It's not really for me, but I'll endure. But in any case, life's pretty good. Got a very busy summer ahead. Working on the jazz blog, or what? That sounds so dumb, but I am working on it. And writing sucks. It's really fun, but also really sucks. So that's great. Writing about music.
Imagine being underpaid for it.
Hey, I'm just doing it for free, so I don't even.
No, I know, no shit, right? No shit, right? I'm over here like watching the WGA, like, man, you guys get paid, really?
I'm on solidarity. I am not making money, so
you can see my wonderful cats back there jumping on my brand new big boy purchase of this enormous sofa.
The symbol of the IWW, the black cat. Although he is not black, he could still hang.
He's a menace, is what he is. Yeah, but the only really big development for this week is I brought a brand new couch that just barely fit through my door.
Hell yeah.
And it's a reclining couch too. So my ass has been on there reading a book all week that I will get to for our opening segment. But moreover, Joe, don't want to skip you. I know you're not feeling the greatest over here, but I do applaud you for still doing the show.
As Dom said, I don't want to go to master's school. Yeah. That's what I'm dealing with. That's the symptom I got right now. I just been very busy. I haven't had a weekend where I can just decompress in a while. And it really sucks that I'm doubling down on some classes coming up soon. I just can't wait to get a weekend where it's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. Because I'll tell you what, I'm going to go see whatever movie we're reviewing that week. I'm going to go see it at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And then I don't want to leave the house after that. I'm doing good overall.
The old Steve Pulaski Saturday special.
I'm doing good overall.
I've been doing it earlier and earlier myself. It is awesome.
It's nice. It's really nice to knock it out ahead of time. It really is. I remember I went to go see when we reviewed Dominion, Jurassic World. I saw that at like 12 o'clock, and I was like, oh, cool. I have my whole rest of my day still. The movie didn't kill it all. But yeah, overall, I'm fine. It's just, I'm just exhausted. Like, I can't wait to go to bed tonight. I literally, like, one good thing to come out of this, because I'm just so tired, and I just don't want to, like, really do anything, and I'm just kind of skating on by right now with schoolwork. It's like, I'm just going to do whatever's required. I'm not going to go above and beyond, because I got an A right now in this class, and as of now, even if I got like a C on the last paper, I would still have an A. That's how secured I am. So it's like I'm just coasting on by. One nice thing though is I've been catching up on TV. I've been catching up on Better Call Saul. I just started Beef. It's really freaking good. So yeah, man. I'm doing all right overall, but just tired.
Where's Beef streaming?
Netflix.
Okay. I might check it out.
This is no human has uttered this sentence ever, but once I finish Frog and Toad, I'm gonna watch Beef. Once I finish Frog and Toad, I will then get to Beef, because those are hour-long episodes, aren't they?
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Frog and Toad?
No, Beef.
No, Frog and Toad's Frog and Toad's like 2 13-minute episodes.
Beef has episodes that are like, the 45 to like 50-minute length, and then I think I believe there's like episodes that are 33 minutes long. Like the second episode was only 30 minutes long. And I was just like, oh, okay. I've been enjoying it so far. I watched the first 3 episodes. I really dig it. I hope A24 gets more television shows like this to a much more, I guess, accessible network like Netflix, because it'll be great to see more projects like this that mainstream audiences will pick up and go, hey, this is actually pretty good, because I'm actually shocked at the success this show has had, because I thought it would not appeal to people at all.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to watching it for sure. And like you said, I do think it expands A24's visibility as well. Yeah. And to your earlier point about seeing movies early, I got a 9:30 a.m. ticket for Sunday for Guardians 3.
I'm seeing that Friday night with my friends. That's actually one thing I am looking forward to, one event this weekend. And then the other event is I'm going to an orchestrated symphony concert. And I'm like, after that, I'm like, cool, done. And now Sunday.
Where?
The Chicago Theater, I think.
Is it the CSO?
Let me see. I'm going to, if you want to know where I'm going to go see, one of my friends texted me it. It's the Batman, the movie.
I saw ads for this.
Yeah,
yes.
It's the orchestrated symphony of, you watch the movie and they play the score while the movie's playing.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. And like
that has a really good score too. The opening
does.
Was like, and
it's like,
oh, it's so good.
I hope they have a hologram of Kurt Cobain singing Something in the Way. That'll be cool. And I was like, okay, thank God. At least I have Sunday. And then I got a text last minute telling me Sunday my little cousin's turning 7 and she's throwing a Super Mario themed birthday, and if I could come dressed as Luigi. And I'm like, damn it.
You in high demand, man. They got the Italian running all over the place, don't they? You're going to all these lavish events and everything, all dressed up. You got a wedding every damn weekend.
I know. You saw my Instagram post. I'm doing way too much. I'm only 5 months into this damn year, man. Every weekend I've had something to go to.
I feel you. I feel you. This weekend alone, I got a Cinco de Mayo party that I've coordinated and I'm going to host on Friday, and then Saturday morning I'm seeing the American Heart Association event out here. So so I've gotten tabbed for a lot of different things too. It's fun, it's exciting, but it catches up to you in some ways
like
too.
It is for me right now. Ooh, man.
I understand it, man. But we will move forward though, because we do have to pay tribute over here. We do have to say a few words because this happened last Thursday. I want to say this celebrity passing, and I could tell the story about how I found out about it, but I kind of want to put the spotlight on the man himself. Jerry Springer passed away at the age of 79 in Evanston, died in Evanston, Illinois. Very popular, sort of a outlying Chicago neighborhood. I tell you, Jerry Springer, first things first, on the Mount Rushmore of things to keep you company while you're sick as a kid, it's Jerry Springer, it's PBS Kids, I'm not going to name a specific show, but it's Jerry Springer, PBS Kids, Maury, and Price is Right. Is that not the Mount Rushmore of things that you watch when you're sick?
Yeah, that's it. Specifically Price is Right, because it's so hype, and it makes you feel better just by osmosis.
and I always loved like daytime television because there's ever since I was a kid, there was always something fascinating about like watching TV that I could not watch because I was always in school. So it was like almost like a weird forbidden fruit kind of thing. But Jerry Springer did pass away though last week at the age of 79. He passed away of pancreatic cancer, actually. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer a few months ago, died very quietly, again in Evanston, excuse me. And obviously known for the Jerry Springer Show, the very controversial trash TV, tabloid talk show, whatever you want to call it, which I'll say this too. I've always kind of really admired Jerry Springer. I watched his show a lot as a kid, which probably explains a lot. But I've always admired him because of the fact that I feel like he reminds me like, and now, especially now too, that I did pick this up on eBay actually last week, and I'm about 160 pages deep into it. His book Ringmaster. I've been reading this over the last week on my brand new couch. See how it all comes full circle. And he reminds me a ton of myself, though. He reminds me a lot of like sort of my ethos of like, oh, I want to try that. That sounds like fun. I'll go do that. He's got a very interesting life, and I'm reading in the book too. Like, I knew this, but he goes into a lot of great detail about how he was born during World War II. He was born in England, and he was born to parents that were Jewish and escaping the Holocaust, and they made it to America. And he talks about like coming to America, kind of getting like he's got a really good part in this book where he's talking about how kids used to pick on him and bully him because his clothes, like he had rags for clothes. And one of the neighborhood mothers told Jerry's mother as a kid that if she bought him a Yankees uniform, nobody beat him up, and then he never got beat up again once he started wearing Yankees clothes to school. But he was also too, he was a politician. I feel like not a lot of people know that because it happened such a long time ago. He was a city councilman, huge Democrat, huge liberal champion of the blue collar working class, was the mayor of Cincinnati for an extended period of time. Very popular mayor too at the time. Got a lot of health clinics established in low income neighborhoods. And he remained a real champion of like the underclassmen throughout his entire run, even as a news anchor in Cincinnati, and then eventually a talk show host in Chicago. He's a fascinating guy, and I do enjoy this book. The book is interesting too. Again, it's called Ringmaster. The book's interesting because the first 60 pages of the book, it starts with Jerry Springer dying. It starts with him dying, and then he's a guest on God's talk show in the afterlife. And then there's like this subplot of Rudy Giuliani taking over as the host of Jerry Springer, which is a humor in itself. But I've always liked Jerry Springer. I always thought he was also kinder and gentler than a lot of other kind of TV hosts of his kin as well. I always thought that he had sort of this respectability about him, and that I didn't necessarily view his show as exploitative as I think a lot of other people did. I also think highly of him just as somebody who was kind of a jack of all trades. He was a folk singer. He's made a few albums. He was an actor. He's a journalist. He was a news reporter. So I look up to a man that can wear many hats, and I think he did very valiantly. I was also a fan for a few years in college of the Jerry Springer podcast, which went on for about 7 years or so. That was a very good podcast. I used to watch the streams of that sometimes in a good old Osterley library. That's what I did with my spare time. But R.I.P. Jerry Springer, though. I want to make sure I get a few words in about it. Anything to add on that, Dom? Any Jerry Springer anecdotes?
No, just the fact that he was inspired to enter politics by RFK, resigned from the Cincinnati City Council in 1974 after admitting to soliciting a prostitute, admitted it, and made a comeback to become the mayor of Cincinnati in 77. Worked on radio and TV as a broadcaster and journalist thereafter, and then started some talk show in 1991. Truly American personality. And honestly, between him and Oprah, what a time to be in media in Chicago. Like in the 80s and 90s when Chicago media seemed to be, in some cases, bigger than New York, where every 80s movie was set in Chicago. It seemed like every other one. Um, and then between Jerry and Howard Stern, these kind of shock personalities, or less so Jerry with the personalities himself, but the guests he would bring on. Whereas Howard himself and the guests were both shockers. Jerry more played off of that, him being more the straight man, and then everyone else is just freaking insane, throwing the beads everywhere, getting the beads thrown everywhere. You got people starting fights, a lot of them admittedly fake and false stories. Some of them real. And I have seen some earlier pre-94 clips of the show. And I say pre-94 because 1994 was when he started. I forget the name of the producer, but he was working with a producer to be like, hey, what if we started doing like more of these types of stories? And then the rest is
Richard
history.
Dominic.
Yeah, there you go.
Richard
I was like,
Dominic.
it's on the tip of my tongue. But before that, it was more like there was a clip of him like discussing how like he brought on this family of like a white supremacist and his kids, and how the kids were indoctrinated.
Yeah.
I think you've seen that one. It's got circulated a lot lately.
Called The Racist Family. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the way he handled that discussion was not like what he will be remembered for. It was very kind of nuanced. He confronted the family. He confronted the dad particularly for raising these kids this way, and it was the audience was full of children. And does he talk about it?
He mentions in this book that was at the time, because this book was published in 98, the same year the movie came out. He says in the book that was the only time he lost his cool on a guest at the time, was that dad. He said that was the only time where I was almost going to fight.
I mean, there was a kid as young as like, what, 5, 6 that he was just brainwashing. So it was despicable. But
and again, too, he's Jewish, too. And his parents being Holocaust refugees as well. He said any kind of discrimination. That's why he's as liberal as he is. And that's why he's the way he is. He said that's why discrimination disgusts me so much.
Yeah. And, I think, Steve, I'm a little less forgiving on the effects of what Jerry Springer has done overall. And I think we're feeling the effects of that now. It was probably going to happen anyway, but I feel like he really, took it by the horns and made it into the spectacle that he did. And I think he's even admitted such in fairly recent interviews in like the past 5, 6, 7 years. But I will say the greatest accomplishment, or rather the greatest, thing to come out of the Jerry Springer saga has got to be the opera that he had no participation in. If you look up Jerry Springer the opera, it is a full-fledged musical / opera that explores the psyche of the character of Jerry Springer. And
I thought about watching that. Have you seen it?
I remember seeing it. The full thing was on YouTube like 5 years ago, and now I think it's been taken down. Because
it's online. I found it online.
Okay.
I found where you can watch it. It's only gotten a release in England, though. It's only available on a Region 2 DVD, but I found the version online.
They're like newish in like the past 3 years, like productions of it. Like it's coming back. So I'm like, that's pretty sick. Can I catch this? Can someone stop by Chicago and do this show? That'd be pretty sick. But yeah, I can't deny I have a real soft spot for him. It's just something about that show, that man, and that story is so likable. Yeah.
Anything to add, Joe, about Jerry Springer?
It's sad to see him go. I mean, this is like, as you were saying, this is like kind of like the Mount Rushmore of like shows I would watch when I would be homesick or with my grandparents throughout the summer. It was like Price is Right was watched by them, and then I would go to a different room to watch Jerry Springer because I just liked watching people argue and fight and watch people just swear and hear the blur and beeps and think it's so funny. I mean, the guy has like one of my favorite cameos in a movie, which is Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Spy Who Shagged Me. That's the
sequel.
Right. Where he has like the most evil men of America. He has like a Nazi, a Ku Klux Klan member, and then Dr. Evil on the show. And it's just, it sucks to see. What even sucks more is I didn't know much about the guy past the show, really. Because I just knew him from the show, and it was a Chicago kind of like legend. I didn't know he was the mayor of Cincinnati. I didn't know he went off and did like 20 million other things that these guys were telling me over text messages. It really sucks. I didn't know any of that while growing up, because now I feel like, it's when he passed and I was seeing online. I'm like, oh, that sucks. But now learning everything else, I'm like, damn, I missed out on like some things when it comes to Jerry Springer. Um, Sad to see him go. Terrible way to go, to pancreatic cancer. Sorry to hear that. So my condolences to his friends and his family. Hopefully he rests in peace.
Well said again, too. Like I said, I'm more than halfway through this book. It is a good read. It is a good read. I actually wound up getting very lucky and picking up a copy on this on the cheap on eBay before people started gouging the price out of this thing. So yeah, it's been a good read. It's been a very good read. And I'd love to get some of the DVDs of the show, but the DVDs have always been. I remember 4 years ago actually trying to get the DVDs of the show, because the DVDs are actually uncensored. There's no bleeps and there's no blurring. The DVDs are authentically uncensored. I remember 4 years ago losing an auction trying to get all 3 of the DVDs for like $75, and I got outbid. And I ain't never getting them damn things now. But I'd love to get some of the DVDs, though, if I could ever get them. But like I said, they're almost a lost cause to even try to get. But rest in peace to Jerry Springer. Wanted to devote a little showtime for that. Usually it's the movie that's the meat of the show, but now it's really this story, because this story, I think, has captured all of us, at least that are in tune to the movie industry, the entertainment industry, and those of us who write, those of us who enjoy writing or trying to make a living as a writer, as am I in some ways, on top of being a radio DJ. But this is a much more serious issue with the Writers Guild strike that started at midnight on Tuesday. A minute after the contract with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers expired. The Guild confirmed that the strike would happen about 3 hours prior to the midnight deadline, and it sure has. Right now, you're seeing at least the most immediate effects right now. The late night shows have shut down. Seth Meyers, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, they're all in reruns. As of last night, they're all in reruns. You have a couple Fox shows, even too, like Gutfeld is not airing now. SNL is indefinitely on hiatus now. There's a lot of other shows: Cobra Kai, Night Court, Yellow Jackets, Abbott Elementary. There's a lot of shows that's just going to keep piling up right now, as far as shows that are going to be on an indefinite hiatus. To talk about the ins and outs of it in a minute is Dom, but I want to say this: one of the biggest cruxes of this because there's a handful of things on the table with this strike and why it's come to be, but obviously it comes down to money in the streaming era of things. Writers have been increasingly devalued and overworked in the streaming era. You're seeing a time when somebody like, I don't want to name names, but our buddy David Zaslav can make $250 million with a B dollars for a living. And he can get rich, and he can pioneer and run right into the ground 2 of the biggest entertainment brands in Warner Brothers and Discovery since they've joined forces. Writers are looking for a portion of that, not getting it. That's frustrating, and that's gotta be a real kick in the ass to these hardworking people that make these shows possible. It all starts with words. It all starts with words, ideas, concepts, and who has those? Writers. The other piece of this argument, and I know Dom will distill this down a little bit more cogently, but one of the things that's really gotten me to, like, over the last 2 weeks or so, to really dive into this story, because I don't know about how you guys have been reading about this stuff. I try not to go down the rabbit hole too much because I get paranoid and I start getting like into my own head, but this AI shit's getting scary. It's getting nerve-wracking, this Chat GPT crap. This Don brought up a really good point. I'm not even going to steal your point on this. I'll give you credit. You brought this up in the group chat last night, a couple days ago, Don, and it's so true. For the longest time, for like the last 15 plus years, with the advent of like robotics and automation and things like that, you go into McDonald's now, you see those kiosks and everything. The long held belief was that menial rote jobs or service work was going to be replaced by robotics or some sort of an artificial intelligence of some kind. Well, now it seems like the pendulum has swung almost, it feels like overnight, but it feels like the pendulum has swung to the point now where it's the creatives that are in trouble now. It's the writers, it's the graphic designers, it's the artists, it's the musicians. We just had a Drake and Weekend song generated entirely by AI, released on Apple Music and Spotify. I played it today for a handful of coworkers. They were none the wiser to it. And that's the terrifying thing with this. And I can imagine the fear in these screenwriters that are thinking that without these demands, what's to stop these studios from looking towards this unregulated, still very fertile breeding ground of AI to compose or comprise scripts? And then what's a writer's job in that equation? You know what the writer's job in that equation is too? Is to go over a 150-page script generated by a computer and make it sound just a little bit less clunky, as opposed to starting from a more genuine space and probably a more realized idea. That is a very brief TLDR of this WGA strike. We could probably go another 2 hours into detail on this. We obviously don't have that kind of time, but I do know Dom is my guy that I go to all the time to explain stuff to me that is either very layered, political, controversial, or just plain interesting. So I will throw it over to you, Dom, to further contextualize the WGA strike, which is currently ongoing.
Appreciate it. And don't forget the other half of that whole pendulum swing, which is that, yes, as the more creative ideas and more creative labor gets sucked up by AI and spat out in an automated fashion, that means the manual labor, the physical labor is not being automated. So now our puny human bodies are meant to be more geared towards that instead of the creative. But regardless, who are the two parties here? They are mainly the WGA, or the Writers Guild of America, also known as the Guild, and the WJ is the joint efforts of two independent craft unions that combined make up about 11.5 thousand members, whose writers are the starting point for many forms of entertainment. And that entertainment can include film, episodic television, daytime drama. Okay, it seems my co-hosts have also gone on strike here. Daytime dramas, late night talk shows, sitcoms, streaming, animation, children's television, theater, new media, including web series and video games, documentaries, and even fiction podcasts. From a Vulture article, WGA East rep said that Spotify, quote, Spotify workers at WGAE shops, The Ringer, Gimlet, and Parcast will not be going on strike. The spokesman did say, however, in the event of a strike, guild members or non-guild members are not allowed to write fiction podcasts for an MBA, that's not Masters in Business Agreement, that's minimum basic agreement, not allowed to write fiction podcasts for an MBA signatory company, or they would face disciplinary action. So it's not just your fast 10s, right? It's all over the freaking place, and you're not going to feel it until you try turning on the TV tonight or your last night, and you find out, oh yeah, Saturday Night Live's off the air. Oh yeah, Gutfeld's off the air. Who am I gonna persecute next? But yes, there is the technicalities of the WGA West and East. All you really need to know is that they are technically independent. There's some whole internal politics stuff there. But really, it's if you're east of the Mississippi, you sign up for the Writers Guild East. Whereas if you're west of the Mississippi, particularly Hollywood, you're Writers Guild West. And even though they are independent, they do come together for negotiations, as well as for striking. So in this case, they are one and the same, and they are completely coordinating. Who's the other end of this bargain? So you got the bargaining thing here. You got the Writers Guild, and you got the AMPTP, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. And those studios include Paramount Pictures, Sony Pictures, Universal Pictures, Walt Disney Studios, Warner Brothers, ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, Netflix, Apple TV Plus, Amazon, and more. Those are just some of the small names in entertainment. You may have heard one or two of them, but yeah, this is a massive thing that will affect basically a lot of cultural content that we consume practically every day. So Twitch streamers are, independent Twitch streamers are looking forward to bringing back those Minecraft Let's Plays to help quell the masses. But for now, that's pretty much everything else. Like compared to the WGA strike of 2007, 2008, a lot of the issues that lasted for 100 days. A lot of the issues there included things like new and emerging media, such as smartphone programming, internet downloads, and DVD residuals. Well, it's been 15 years since that strike, and I think a couple things have come about since DVD residuals was settled. So, Joe, if you could pull up that very plain looking but very important looking negotiations document, if you've got it on screen there. It's actually a very nice document that they put out on their website, the WGA, the Guild put out. And what are some of these things that they are talking about? Well, it's actually very, very extensive, and they include the minimum basic agreements, such as the general increase from the last contract in 2020. So just asking for more money, which you think, oh man, those rich Hollywood types, are they getting more money? No, you're not thinking of those guys. Those are the guys on the other side of the bargaining table. You're talking about the people that are, in the trenches, the people whose names you never even see. Oh, you're talking about like writer directors? Oh yeah, those guys are set. No, we're talking about people at the very, very, very entry level positions, people who just barely got out of Second City, for instance, and dream of going into 30 Rock. But regardless of that, other things such as the features, such as movies, and this is a big one. Appendix A. Now, Appendix A is a big deal in terms of how the WGA calculates a lot of these minimums. So, Joe, if you could pull up that second there underneath issues at play, that second link there, where it's like file contracts, schedule of minimums. This one's pulled from the last one, which is 2020. And it's a very long and boring argument, but it does dictate how a lot of these writers do get paid. And a big thing that hasn't been quite settled yet is streaming. So Appendix A is a large part of, for things like television, for movies, and it gets into the very, very, very little tiny weeds of it. So for instance, there is a part in this document that talks about, hey, what if you write a character that gets shot into their own TV show, like from Cheers to Frasier or Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul? Well, there is a specific part of this document that specifically handles how the writer who created the character in the first show gets paid down to the decimal percentage, and how they get paid in residuals for the new show. So this is some classic Hollywood accounting, and this is how deep the rabbit hole goes. So again, it's not just, oh, Herder, my Fast 11 isn't going to get written now. No, this is pretty much everything. Now, a big thing going back to the streaming portion is that it takes a while for the contracts to catch up to the new technology that keeps coming out. And we will get to artificial intelligence after this break, Steve. I know we're harping on it, but this is a very, very big story. And yeah, streaming had not been included in Appendix A. Let me state that again. The big document that governs how a lot of the writers on these classic episodic TV shows, from MASH to The Sopranos to, Yellow Jackets or whatever, covered by Appendix A, and movies and theater and whatever. A lot of streaming shows had not been covered under this because it's new media. I think you can see a problem there emerging from the past, I don't know, decade or so of streaming being available widely. So this has been a thing that's been brewing for a long, long time. And Joe, if you can go back to that negotiations document, it keeps going down. Episodic television. Okay. There's these mini rooms. That's a big topic, okay. Instead of the classic, 20 to 24 episodes in a season, you now have these mini or like short form series, which is like 6 to 10 episodes on
mini
streaming.
Series.
Yeah, exactly. So now you have situations where, okay, I still am an exclusive writer. That's a big thing. I am an exclusive writer for this show. And it's a shorter amount of time. It's a shorter series, takes about just as much work. And the post-production is just as much, which means I am not making as much money for as long as I can. And I am an exclusive entity of this studio. how I need more money from the offset. Also, I need to continue to make money while these things are in production. So again, extremely technical. The people who the lawyers and the business and the number crunchers in the WGA are all over this. And this document is very technical, but it's actually very, very concise and very, very effective. And I think I'll leave it off for there for now. I kind of threw a lot at the wall, and partially I did that because, one, of the timer, but two, because that's how much it is. This is pretty huge. The only thing that could be bigger than this is if IATSE, which we were talking about, I think a couple years ago, if IATSE and the Teamsters went on strike, that's a complete work stoppage. You won't even get a television feed.
Or even reality TV.
Yeah, you won't even get reality TV, which let's talk about those two things after the break. Artificial intelligence and what came out of the 07 strike, other than the union breaking stuff.
Yeah, I would like to harken back when we started again to make a big point about the 07 strike. One thing I was actually chatting with a friend about yesterday about really the consequence of the 07 strike that we all kind of forgot because it happened over the course of just a couple of months, and it really radically changed TV forever as we know it, as well as several networks. I'll lead with that coming in, and we can even talk AI's role in this ongoing WGA strike when we get back. And we still got a movie to tackle tonight too. A lot going on Sleepless with Steve. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in about 60 to 90 seconds. Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, back from our Zoom-sponsored intermission on this Wednesday evening, in the thick of talking about the ongoing Writers Guild strike that is effective as of yesterday at midnight. Dom's in the middle of sort of contextualizing that. I just want to briefly chime in and say one thing regarding the 07 strike, which I do remember pretty vividly. That went on for, I think, from November 07 to February of 08. Is that correct?
Exactly 100 days.
Exactly 100 days. I remember that for some reason. And I watched a video essay on this a couple of months ago, actually. It wasn't directly related to the strike, but it was about sort of it's about an idea or a concept called channel drift. And that was really one of the causes or the end results that came of the 07 writers' strike. Networks, during the time when the writers went on strike, what is that, 13 years ago or 16 years ago, actually? When that happened, it resulted in what is currently the modern cable TV landscape as we know it, which is very reality TV dominated. A lot of networks like Bravo, which used to be predominantly an opera network and predominantly like a highbrow entertainment network, that became the home of The Real Housewives, RuPaul's Drag Race. It's the same thing with History Channel, which used to be the source of World War II documentaries, Nam documentaries, and such. That became the Pawn Stars, American Pickers Network.
Ancient
Regardless
aliens.
of Ancient Aliens. Whether or not you like these shows is kind of irrelevant.
Aliens.
But the point of the matter is, though, it really led the '07 writers' strike, because it went on for as long as it did, really led in some ways to the degradation of television in a lot of ways, and the massive investments that were made into these reality TV shows. Because think about it, when did Jersey Shore become popular?
Yeah.
08, 09. Right afterwards, because it was far cheaper to produce those types of shows. They didn't need writers. They just needed a handful of producers, a much smaller crew. You had a lot of guerrilla style videography. It didn't have to be completely polished. And it was also reality TV. It's not like it was a new concept introduced in '07, but the reality TV up until that point, outside of Fear Factor and, Jerry Springer again, as we brought that up, but like, it was game show driven. It was Survivor. It was Amazing Race. There was still an element of production value behind these things. And then the writer's strike happened, and the networks had to come up with stuff to fill things. And that's what greenlit a lot of these cheap ass reality shows that led to sort of the degradation of cable television, as well as the concept I just outlined of channel drift, which you see now. There's a ton of networks. You see it now. That's why I swear half these networks now, if you have cable, I'm always reminded when I go back home, because my dad's got DirecTV. You scroll through cable, it's a shitload of syndicated networks. It's a ton of All in the Family and Cheers and Full House reruns. Every network has like the exact same oldies lineup. It's insane. And if it's not that, it's some reality TV. I just wanted to contextualize that part about the end result, because I feel like that's just kind of been lost to history, and people forget that coincided right up the time of the '07 strike.
It affected a lot of episodic TV, including, I think, Breaking Bad. Whereas, but like any other any show during that time that was in the middle of their storylines, or like in the middle of like in between seasons, like severely affected by it. And all those shows, you can almost have a big asterisk being like, hey, this was during the '07 strike, so take note of that during while reading the plot line. And it really is astounding. Also, the line that people are drawing on social media now is that, yeah, be careful about this new strike, because during the first strike, it kind of saved The Apprentice, and kind of further launched the host of that show, I forget his name, to bigger stardom, and made him a little more relevant and gave him a little more reach. So be careful who we're affecting in this.
We're gonna launch somebody from Shark Tank into the presidency now.
Yeah,
better be Cuban.
At least he can talk. But anyway, I think we want to move on to the biggest, the juiciest, the scariest one here, which is artificial intelligence. And yeah, let's go to how the WGA tried to negotiate this. So, Joe, if you could go to that very boring but very, very, very important table. So on the left here, you see the guild's offer, which is to regulate use of artificial intelligence on MBA. Again, that is minimum business agreement. Nope, that's minimum something agreement. I had it. Minimum basic agreement. There you go. Minimum basic agreement covered projects. AI can't write or rewrite literary material, can't be used as source material, and MBA covered material can't be used to train AI. Now, how the hell are you going to regulate out of that? I don't know, but that's what they were trying to push. The AMPTP, the studios, the big wigs, they countered by just rejecting the proposal. And they countered by offering annual meetings to discuss advancements in technology. Okay, so nothing. Just for the record, that means nothing. And that's not the first time the WGA kind of wrote a spicy interpretation of how the studios wanted to handle this thing. Because, yeah, the Chat GPT thing, the AI thing, all of that, it is taking off so exponentially fast. That is the part that all these AI stories for the past century, more or less, have been fearing, is that whether it's physical, manual, literal robots moving boxes or Chat GPT or whatever, it does happen exponentially, faster than the blink of an eye when you really zoom out. And clearly that is just a flat out rejection of that, because the studios know that. I'm going full pundit now for the record. They know that they can exploit it, and they know that they can full-fledged do it, and then they can hide it, at least not without some kind of contractual obligation that could be monitored by the Fed, or the Labor Relations Board. But yeah, it is very, very, very scary. And this is the big thing over the horizon. That it's honestly almost kind of stunning that it's, actually, not really, that they put it at the bottom, because they were like, okay, we have to make sure that everyone knows that there's other stuff first before we get to the AI part. But this is something that, whatever is or isn't agreed upon in this round of during this strike, will have drastic effects for decades to come. Because remember, the last strike happened 15 years ago. 15 years ago. And in 2007, they were just getting to DVD residuals. In 2007. So if they don't get on this AI shit now, it's do or die. And I'm honestly not surprised that they went to strike over this. Everything else, like, oh yeah, that's a pretty decent reason. AI, that is existential for writers, particularly those who are guild writers. And yeah, man, there's plenty of other sources and other things you can read up on why that is the case. But just know, or rather how that will make them obsolete potentially. But as for the why they're striking, it's not surprising.
Joe, any thoughts to add?
Listen, man, that 07, 08 period, yeah, Dom was kind of hinting at like how much it kind of sucked in terms of entertainment and what it did to entertainment overall. Don't get me wrong, I love my trash reality TV, but I also do love my House of Dragons, my Cobra Kai, my anything script-based original programming, stuff like that. And it really sucks knowing we have somebody who is basically running, I think, one of the best streaming platforms, and also probably influencing a lot of scripted-based television original programming, both for HBO and now, soon to be, just Max. It really sucks that, like, there's a strike going on right now, and it should be going on because these writers deserve more, and they deserve to have their jobs secure that Dom's talked about. But I don't want to see this guy really take full advantage and not only just further push the idea of reality TV onto streaming services, but just really try to like really just kind of like popularize it to where, man, like, what if that just I'm not gonna say that's gonna become the future, but like that might become a good chunk of streaming services now. We saw what happened in 07, 08. A lot of networks got reality TV shows, a ton of stuff, and a lot of them blew up and got several spin-offs. You had your Jersey Shore, well, now you have Alabama Shore. It's just like you have the Desperate Wives of New Jersey, well, now you have the Desperate Wives of like Tampa, Florida, all that stuff. That's all it's just gonna take is for this strike to happen, and Zaslav, anybody on Netflix, whatever, they make 20 million spin-offs of like their popular reality TV show that they were running throughout the pandemic that kind of blew up during that time, and now they're like, well, we don't really have any time, we don't have any like production going on, we need to get something out, so let's just like order like 2 more versions of that. That's my biggest worry, along with the AI stuff, because even at work I've been getting emails from like about Chat GPT 3.5 and 4 and how much it could do for your business and local government and stuff, and I'm just like, that's not cool. Not that my job is really in jeopardy. My job includes a bunch of other stuff other than writing, but that's one aspect to my job that I don't want to lose. it really sucks knowing there is a potential in this future where it's like if that AI stuff doesn't get worked out, the whole creative side, the whole human creative side of art is just gone. And who knows if we'll ever see it as much as we do today or even at all. You might have someone like, God, I can't remember who wrote Yellowstone and Sicario and all that stuff. He's one of my favorite writers.
I know what you're talking about.
Taylor Sheridan.
Taylor Sheridan. Thank you. I almost said Taylor Kish. But Taylor Sheridan, like, I'm sure
John of Mars. What was it? John Carter of Mars.
John Carter of Mars. Like he writes. He's basically an AI of a human, along with Tyler Perry. Man, I mean, like they're cranking out shows like left and right, and maybe they'll be fine and still have their craft. But a lot of those shows that Dom listed at the start, I like those shows, and those shows are nothing without the writers' touch to them. Cobra Kai only works because the writers know how to sell that whole 80s sports movie thing and poke fun out of it, but also make it its own thing. I don't think an AI can do that. An AI to me would make like the meme versions of like Avengers, whatever the next Avengers movie is called, King Dynasty and stuff, where it's just like, just AI generated versions of that movie where it's like you have Wolverine show up and he just says iconic line and then goes off and does something and whatnot. And it's just like, yeah, like Steve said, you can have somebody be like, okay, let's just go through real quick and touch this up so it makes it sound like, someone actually really wrote this. And it's taking out the biggest part, which is, the human creative side of it, actually having a mind behind it. James Gunn just finished Superman Legacy, the script, before all this went down and everything. So production of that is on its way. But he has said he is in full support of all the writers to go on strike and hold off on the new DCEU, because he doesn't care. He knows what's right in that position. And who's to know? And again, we have someone like Zaslav who's going to be kind of overseeing that department and everything. Who knows what his say is going to be in it? He's like, okay, well, we need this DC universe out now, so get an AI to do it or something. I don't know.
And the stars have completely aligned too to make Zaslav the perfect
exactly.
villain, too.
That's the whole thing. The entire time,
deservedly.
That's the entire time this writer strike has been going on, and it's talked about like IGN has a great article too. By the way, that was the one I was reading earlier today, where it really breaks down what shows, what movies, what studios are being affected by this, and what it means in down the line. And they bring up Zaslav in their article and how much this is actually a perfect opportunity to what he was saying about we're keeping movies on the big screen and TV should only just be reality shows and a few original based programming. It's
lean back content,
dude. Yeah, it's the worst time for him to be in charge of HBO right now and just Warner Bros. In general. Any other CEO, I would have been like, we're fine with HBO, we'll be good. But him, it's shit, this guy's gonna get the total wrong idea from the strike and not actually listen to anybody.
Make no mistake, the first 5 to 10 years of these bigwigs trying to force AI to spit out scripts is going to be hilarious. It's going to be funny just to see it all flounder.
Yeah.
But after that, once these things learn, which it's going to be a lot faster than that.
Yeah.
It is very scary. It is genuinely scary. I might even say, if I may be so bold, and I try not to hyperbolize, but what the guild is doing here could be the forefront. They are the front lines of this whole fight against AI, not just in entertainment, but how it is approached and regulated overall. Joe, if you could switch to that tweet thread of tweets that they put out here, and it's funny that they put it the official line on Twitter. This was at the top of their link tree too, and I won't read the whole thing, but at the top it says, the WGA's proposal to regulate use of material produced using artificial intelligence or similar technologies ensures the companies can't use AI to undermine writers' working standards, including compensation, residuals, separated rights, and credits. And if you could scroll down there to the second to last one,
important thing to highlight.
Yeah. Second one, last one, and the last one itself. If it's been fed both copyright protected material and public domain content, it cannot distinguish between the two. Its output is not eligible for copyright protection, nor can an AI software program sign a certificate of authorship. And here's the punchline. To the contrary, plagiarism is a feature of the AI process.
There it is.
Plagiarism is a feature of the AI process. That line right there, and you know a human wrote that. It is that it pretty much sums up this whole angle to it. Because remember, don't forget, there is like pensions and health and minimums and like writing room regulations and all that stuff involved with this strike. But in this aspect, the scary one, the super sexy, but also super scary one here, the AI thing, that is the heart of the argument. And why I make that claim, that this strike is the absolute front line, the opening shots of the fight between, human labor fighting back against corporate AI, hogwash. And I hope that's how it's framed, because it sounds like hyperbole, but I don't think it is. It's getting there.
There's going to be a lot made about the AI angle of this, deservedly so. And I add too, like I've been telling people too, and just from all that I've been reading over the last couple of days too, this has potential to be bigger than the 07 strike in terms of stakes. Yeah. And this right here, this agreement, whatever they come to it and whatever they come to, is going to define AI's role in the entertainment space, at least going forward for this foreseeable future.
And that's what makes this for so beyond. Big. For beyond entertainment, potentially a template and set a precedent that other industries,
because the music industry right now is grappling with it too.
Oh,
and that
1000%.
That Drake and Weeknd song drop that I mentioned earlier on Apple and Spotify, UMG immediately wanted to retaliate and immediately wanted lawsuits. And that's going to be the difficult part here too. It's like you almost wonder now with this AI thing, like looking at it from a music standpoint too. There's going to be a lot, like, I hate to say it, it feels like there's going to be a lot of new Juice WRLD music and a lot of new Tupac music. I hate to say it.
Combined with the hologram, anything's possible.
But I mean, think about it. Whenever an artist dies, like Tupac or Biggie or Michael Jackson or Prince, they pillage their DMX was one of the more recent ones. They pillage their catalogs and release unrecorded demo or unreleased demos, unprocessed vocals, snippets.
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
The John Lennon song that he wrote, Free as a Bird.
Each compilation gets more and more insufferable by the subsequent release. And now you can just generate things out of thin air. You can just generate, or you can rap, or I could rap. I can rap a verse and then feed it through an automated system or a computer, and I can get the Weeknd's vocals out of that. The potential for bad actors of this thing is astronomical. I would almost go as far as to say beyond anything that the internet has produced or technology has produced since. Because in AI, the lines of AI that are blurred between what is real and what is an artificially intelligent creation are very slim. And I think that Drake and Weeknd song, I keep going back to that because when I saw that about 2 weeks ago, that felt like a defining, like a pivotal moment for the music industry.
Let's not forget too, also, like there was the whole conversation that they wanted to start using deceased actors again, like having AI.
They're gonna.
Oh, there was the whole Coachella thing with Tupac.
Oh. Yeah.
The hologram thing a couple of years ago.
Well, yeah. I think it was who's the other half of Silk Sonic? Not Bruno Mars, but Anderson .Paak. Anderson .Paak. Doesn't he have like a tattoo that says, it's legally binding, but he says, "Hey, if I die," it's not worded this way, but if I die, you're not allowed to use my shit without my. He has like that tattooed, and I think he still needs to get that legal document. But it's like it is getting there. You laugh at that, but it's getting there now, and it's like. Steve, you were saying distinguishing reality before these past couple of years, before the AI thing. It's like before that approach was more based on human ignorance. Like, yeah, our education system sucks. We're not really that literate. We're not this or that. Now, maybe even this year, that phrase, we can't distinguish reality. Now it's not even human ignorance anymore.
No,
it's a mirage, or rather mirage. It's a complete replication we're getting there, or we're getting there. Like, again, the next few years is going to be funny to see him try, but they're going to figure it out. They're going to learn. The money is there. The not just the money to make, but the money to cut out the human element, cut out the writers, cut out the video producers, cut out the voice actors, cut out the musicians. Oh God.
I have a proposition right now. Since we are already have hit the time duration for Sleepless with Steve, and anything after this constitutes a Sleepless OT, how does it sound that next week we do a doubleheader of Guardians 3 and Evil Dead Rise? How does that sound?
Hold on. Something's crazy going to happen. Something's crazy going to happen the next 7 days.
No, we have to make a blood pact right now.
That's what Evil Dead was for. That's what I watched Evil Dead Rise for.
I only agree because I do have to be somewhere at 8, and I don't want to risk it.
Okay.
I just thought,
I'm good.
because I didn't want to interrupt. About 10 minutes ago, I was thinking, I'm like, I don't want to interrupt this conversation. It's going really well, and maybe we can do our part to support the Writers Guild insofar as to not review a movie tonight. And
we're on strike as well. No movie review.
So I would say tentatively for next.
Yeah, who runs this show? We're striking against him, that bastard.
I was just gonna say we always make the joke, the day you guys union is the day I'm fucked. Next week, though, we'll review Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and then we will touch on Evil Dead Rise, because that won't be a long review to begin with, I don't foresee, but I think that it was more important tonight to really try to give as best of a distillation of this Writers Guild strike that we could possibly give, and I think Dom, Joe, and myself, I think we valiantly did that tonight.
There's so much more, too.
Dude,
there's so much more.
Man, for organizing all this, honestly.
Oh, yeah, when I credit all of us, about 80% goes to you.
It's like that meme of, like, the guy that does everything. That was Dom tonight.
Yeah,
he's actually running the show. Everything's like, hey, Joe, can you click on that? It's been him the whole time.
No, this is the story for me. This is my bread and butter here on this show.
Yeah, it really sucks. I never got to do a group project with Dom. I'm very disappointed about that.
Same with you, Joe.
Next week we will tackle Guardians 3, which I know we're primed to review. It's the first Marvel. I'm not gonna lie, it's the first Marvel movie that I'm genuinely looking forward to, and probably since Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The first Marvel movie I'm genuinely excited to see. So we'll have a review of that, and then we will touch on Evil Dead Rise next week on the show. Really glad, though, we got to give a breakdown of the WGA strike. Highlights will be posted on the YouTube channel on which you are watching this right now. In the meantime, we will see you next Wednesday, same time, same place, live on YouTube. For Joe, Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.